Hello, I'm Princess Serena, not Princess Serena, and today I'm going to rank all 23 Pixar films and show you a closer look at my Pixar alphabet collection. If you're only interested in the ranking, please go to this time of the video. So diving in here, we got the Pixar lamp, and this has a rubber element, which is super cool. And then this is definitely my favorite pin of the bunch. I knew I had to have it when it came out. So when it opens, it actually looks like it's a pin book, and inside are pins that actually exist. I have the Lexo Ball one on its way to me, and then I have the skull one, and it even has a strap as if it's a pin bag. Shifting over a bit, I have a Pixar Pier pin. It's a very 3D. This is a Shanghai pin, and it actually spins, and you could face the ball whichever way you want depending how you put it in the board. And then we have another Pixar lamp, but this one looks more realistic to what it looks like in the Pixar intros. And then this is one I picked up at Disney World. I was lucky enough to go in February, and it's just the world of Pixar, and I'm so happy this one has Remy on it, because I feel like a lot of the Pixar pins in general forget about Ratatouille. So I divided my list into tiers, and this first one is unrewatchable for me, and that's saying a lot because it's Pixar. There's not too many films in this. Coming in at 23 is Cars 2. O is for Otis. Cars 2, in my opinion, not only fails as a Pixar movie because the standards are very high with Pixar, but it just fails as a sequel in general. I liked Cars, and you'll see where it is on the ranking, but I feel like it should take what is established in the first one and build on that character development and on that world, but instead it kind of just throws that all away and has this flashy, cheap spy theme, and then it takes a side character that was very funny and lovable in the first one but kind of just makes him very annoying in the second. And I've seen this happen too many times in so many animated sequel movies. And then Lightning McQueen kind of just becomes this self-absorbed character that doesn't care about really Mater anymore at the beginning, and that's not where he was the first film. It just makes no sense. Cars being spies, it just doesn't work. It's not executed well, and that's definitely my least favorite by far. Coming in at 22 is Cars 3. L is for Lightning McQueen. So Cars 3 is miles better than Cars 2 in my opinion, and if you're a big fan of Cars, I would just skip the second one entirely, and then it's a perfect continuation of Cars. However, that being said, I have the opposite criticism for Cars 3, which is it's way too similar to the first one. I feel like it just flips it, like he's no longer the rookie Lightning McQueen, now he's the veteran, and he has to deal with that. And then it just takes the first one, but takes all the heart and soul out of it. And then there's the third one. It's just lots of very slow training sequences. And I feel like the chemistry isn't there with the new character. And I feel like maybe it's because he already has a love interest. And I don't know, I just don't love this one. I feel like the concept could have worked in theory. I was really interested when I saw the trailer. It really brought me in, like seeing that he kind of just spiraled off the track. But I just can't watch this one. Coming in at 21 is The Good Dinosaur. A is for Arlo. I honestly keep forgetting that this is a movie that exists. This was the first Pixar film that I skipped out on theaters. Nothing happens. Like, it didn't tug on my emotions at all. Like, when the dad died, like, I didn't really care that much. The main character is okay. Like, he's not super annoying, but I feel like I'm not attached to him in any way. And then the whole concept of this film seems so interesting. Like, what if dinosaurs didn't go extinct and then they'd interact with humans, but when the human's basically a dog, it kind of just throws this concept out the window, and you're just left with a movie with zero substance. I gotta say, the animation was stunning, and you could tell it is like a more recent Pixar release. Coming in at 20 is Brave. Q is for the Queen. And then I don't have M, but M is for Merida. It is a crime that it's not for Mike or Miguel, but here we are. Brave really pisses me off because the first half an hour, 40 minutes-ish was like really good. Like it was a mother-daughter relationship and they both had their conflicts and their views and they didn't understand each other, and that kind of was just thrown all away once she got transformed into a bear. Like, there were some funny moments, with, like, the little brothers. The mother is painted as, being the bad guy here, and then she kind of changed her ways at the end and sacrificed, oh, okay, I guess you can marry whoever you want, and, archery's fine now, but I feel like Merida doesn't learn too much, and as a viewer, it's just not that entertaining, the second half of it. So, in an alternate timeline, I would have loved this movie and it would have been a lot higher on my list. Coming in at 19 is Incredibles 2, U is for the Underminer. So going into the next tier of good movies, and now normally there would be a tier between unrewatchable and good, but the thing is, most of the unrewatchable movies for me are okay. They're just there because Pixar has such amazing movies that I have to hold it to this standard. I just didn't like the villain. Like, I feel like I was very intrigued the whole film, like with the whole screenslaver. That's such a cool concept, as being a passive agent in your life. Like the whole monologue the screenslaver did, like there was a minute or two, like I was really in. Just live your life, don't just watch TV, like you gotta live your life. Then it kind of just got all thrown away because the main focus at the end was I never liked supers and they make us dependent, which yeah, it ties into technology, but I feel like they should have stayed into that technology piece. I thought that was really interesting. Like I knew who the villain was like halfway through the movie, which it does not compare to the first one where it was kind of like mind blown. Yes, I was younger, maybe that's why I couldn't predict it, but I think it made a lot more sense. Like, I feel like this villain was kind of forced just because there had to be one. Coming in at 18 is Finding Dory. D is for Dory. You can't deny Dory is so cute. And I did like the concept of really focusing on her memory loss because that's something, we haven't really explored in the first film too much, and then we explored her family. But where this film downfalls is it's just not that original compared to the first one, and it knows that. Like, it keeps referencing the first film. I feel like at least 10% of the film it's just referencing the first film, and the side characters aren't all that great. I do like Hank, and then also Gerald is the best thing that has ever come out of this movie. Poor Gerald just wanted to go on that rock and he was so gullible. And also this movie had some pretty funny moments, like Marlin and Nemo going in that bucket and then that bird. That was so funny. I couldn't stop laughing. Coming in at 17 is Toy Story 2, Z is for Zurg. I am well aware this is where you're gonna exit out of the video. This is where you're not gonna want to hear what I want to say, gonna dislike this video and not agree with me. But just bear with me for a second. I love the Toy Story franchise and the rest are way higher on this list. But upon rewatch, I was really shocked. I felt like this film had a way more child-esque theme to it, which obviously Pixar, it is a children's studio, but it's made for adults to enjoy as well and have deeper meaning. And I feel like that was lacking in this film. But at the same time, it painted Woody as this horrible, horrible character, which I know he is self-absorbed, but he didn't even take Buzz's help when they finally came to rescue him. I feel like that was out of character, and yes, he had sympathy for Jesse's story and everything, and that's good. And that was one of my favorite parts of this film, is that whole layer of like a child growing up and then leaving the toy, which kind of foreshadows the third one, which came, years later. But I do love how interconnected every single one of these Toy Story films are, which I noticed upon rewatching them like in a row. But just overall, between Zurg, which I didn't like at all, to just all of the characters other than the new ones, and Woody's sole purpose is just to be the comic relief, going on an adventure across town to like go and rescue Woody. And there were some funny moments, don't get me wrong. I love when they cross the street with the cones, but the best part of this film was when it ends, not because I don't like it. Again, this is a part of my good tier, I want to remind you, but it's because of the credit sequence. It was so funny. Like that, if that was the comedy level of like this film, because it was going for less of a mature vibe, I feel like I would have put this way higher. Coming in at 16 is Monsters University, S is for Sully. It's very generic and very average with the concept. It's not a super out there concept unlike most of the Pixar films, but I just think it does it right. Like, it really shows their characters and how they met and how they grew to like each other. And I like how they had Randall in it as well, and you see a lot of the characters but like being younger. And I think the second half of the film is definitely a lot stronger. And I do love the new characters like living in the mom's house. Like, they're all hardcore, and then he's like, "Mom!" Like, it's just an ongoing gag that's hilarious. And at the end, like, when the stakes are high, they are high. Like, it's not just this like little kiddie version of Monsters Inc. or there's no heart in it. Like, there is. Like, there's that moment near the end where Mike is really mad at Sully, you know, for cheating for him and making him win. And I really appreciate the ending, how it wasn't just like a happy ending. Oh, we got what we wanted, amazing, we're graduating from this university, and then we're gonna go on the job of our dreams. Like, they eventually get there, but I like the route they took. Like, they actually got kicked out for their actions, and then they started from the bottom and they eventually got to where they were in the first movie. Okay, so moving on into the great tier. So again, they're miles apart, the last two movies. Coming in at 15 is Cars 1, G is for Guido. A lot of people hate on this franchise as a whole, but I feel like they're just blinded by the second movie and maybe the third as well. But the first one had a lot of heart in it, you know, and you get this car and he's just so self-absorbed and he thinks he's too good for everything, and then eventually, you know, he realizes, you know, he needs friends and they actually care about him in the town and everything, and he humbles himself, which again, it's not a super unique concept, but it was a unique concept within the world of Cars. Coming in at 14 is Toy Story 4. When I first saw it, it definitely would have been lower on this list if I didn't rewatch it along with the other films. But I definitely appreciated the side characters. Ducky and Bunny were so funny. And I feel like them and Buzz, like, it was the perfect side plot for sure. I definitely like the side plots in this film a lot better than the second one. And then also, I think the plot was so important. I didn't realize that upon first watch. It really is the true conclusion of the series. It is Woody's story. He is left, you know, without his favorite kid. Like, he idolized Andy so much, way more than the rest of the toys. And so when he sacrificed, you know, his dream to go to college with him, he's kind of just stuck with the toys with a new kid, and this brings him there. It makes perfect sense to explore that. It's not just like, what should we do now? I guess we could do this. Maybe it'll make sense. I think it was necessary, and for him to have that real conclusion of being satisfied and being a lost toy, I did not see that coming for a second, and I think it was a beautiful conclusion. And when they said to infinity and beyond, like, I cried. Coming in at 13 is Up, K is for Kevin. I know a lot of people have Up in their top 5, top 3 even, and I would agree. If it was like a short, and I was ranking shorts and it was the first 10-15 minutes, I think that was the strongest opening sequence of any Pixar film, hands down, maybe even any animated film. The way Pixar was able to depict them having a miscarriage and their ups and downs in this whole relationship, and starting with them meeting as kids and him being so shy, and Ellie really taking him under her wing, and then they fall in love and they grow up. Like, it didn't seem forced. It felt beautiful, natural, and it being like a 10-15 minute introduction to shove that all in, like, it's incredible they were able to do that. It gives a backstory of why he's so grumpy and doesn't love Russell right away. And, you know, I do, as much as it's an overdone thing, you know, two characters, one not really liking the other, and then eventually they grow to like them, that's an overdone thing. But, like, I think they did it in a very unique, very profound way. It's just the last third of the film that kind of cheapens it for me. It's the same criticism as Toy Story 2. I feel like it turns more into a children's film, like, more than anything else. It kind of just gets pretty ridiculous with the dogs and then the villain. I feel like there shouldn't have been a villain. That's probably what brings it a lot lower than most people for me, is it kind of just cheapens the whole idea. Coming in at 12 is Onward. I was pleasantly surprised because I remember seeing this trailer and then seeing Soul's trailer and immediately comparing them, which was natural because when was the last time Pixar had two original movies in the same year that weren't sequels? But at first, I was kind of skeptical. Like, it didn't feel like a Pixar film. It didn't look like one. It didn't look like it was going to be this emotional journey. But it was. We had a beautiful relationship of two brothers. You know, the younger one learned to really appreciate his older brother for who he is and kind of ignore what everyone in his family and everyone talks about him because they look down upon him. And it was a very interesting way they showed that too with the police car, and then he was lying and he was like, "You're lying. Oh my goodness, you don't think I'm like amazing and you're not proud of me." And then at the end when he sacrificed seeing his dad, which he wanted this whole time, to give it to his brother, like that was a beautiful moment. I definitely cried, and in the end it did feel like a Pixar film, but it's just a very different take of it, which is what I want. I want things that haven't been done before. I don't want to see, Monsters Inc. I don't want to see Inside Out again and again. Like, this was incredible. Moving along to the great movies tier. Coming in at 11 is Soul. I was really enjoying the movie and loving the world building, but then when they came back to Earth and then Joe was in the cat and 22 was in Joe, I was kind of a little skeptical, like, where is this gonna go? Like, it really showed 22 enjoying these moments, these small moments of life, like whether it was looking at the sky or just really getting to know the person that's doing your hair. And I think it was extremely impactful because Joe himself got to watch himself enjoy these things and do these things and see the reactions of people as soon as she got to Earth. Like, I didn't expect her to love everything at first, but I feel like that's the message of this movie. Everyone deserves to live a life they love, and that doesn't have to reflect something you want to do or like as a career. Just, all the life stuff, as Joe said, like, that's what's important. I was blown away by the concept of you being consumed by your anxieties and your obsessions and them still being alive, but their soul not being connected to their body. And I think that really did a great job representing that to kids or even adults, like thinking, wow, like, am I really living my life or am I letting my thoughts consume me? And I thought going into this film, it was just gonna explain souls, like how they were made kind of, and like how your personality was formed, which they did at the beginning, which was still really entertaining and a really cool concept. But I thought this just hit the movie out of the park for me. Coming in at 10 is The Incredibles. I is for Mr. Incredible and V is for Violet. I know this is a lot lower than where most people put The Incredibles on their list. Usually it's in the top 5, top 3, even their favorite. But in my opinion, there's just a lot of stiff competition going forward. It's an incredible film. I love how realistic the family dynamic is, and it really explores each member and their problems and their conflicts within each other and just how their dynamic goes and their chemistry. It's just an amazing representation of family and a blend of superhero. Like, I feel like it doesn't have go into one and then call itself the other also. Like, it really is a family superhero film. And there's a lot of references in there like that went over my head as a kid, and I was kind of shocked. It was a very entertaining film. Coming in at number 9 is A Bug's Life. F is for Flick and H is for Hopper. The villain was amazing. Like, Hopper was very intimidating and really knew what he wanted, but he was he knew, he was self-aware that there was power in the ants' numbers if they figured that out. And I thought that was an interesting concept in the movie. And all the characters are super memorable. And just the ridiculousness of making a fake bird and how Dot really looked up to Flick. And it was just a very fun film. I feel like nobody talks about because it's between Toy Story 1 and Toy Story 2. So it's definitely overshadowed. On to the last tier, which is pretty early on in this list. And that just shows how many Pixar films are considered masterpieces. So the first film in the masterpiece tier, coming in at 8 is Finding Nemo, N is for Nemo. Fish that make different shapes, so they're making an X. Watching this again, I've seen it so many times, but rewatching it again because I haven't in a while, I'm not a parent, but I can imagine it really, really connects to parents and just that fear of like, letting your child go into the world. And then as a kid, you have that connection to Nemo and like, no, I want to do what I want. You're being overprotective. Let me be with my friends. So it kind of captures all audiences. So it doesn't matter who you are, you're going to enjoy this film. And all the side characters are so interesting, especially the tank characters. I really wish they were in Finding Dory. It would have been miles higher if they were a prominent part of Finding Dory. But Dory in this film, like, is so funny. Like, all her one-liners. That's another reason why this is way higher than Finding Dory. The comedy is there. The heart is there. It opens with, Marlin, experiencing having a bunch of children, and then all of a sudden it's ripped away from him when his wife, along with all but one of his children, dying. And as a kid, I definitely did not connect that to why he was so overprotective to Nemo. Like, someone that's just super forgetful, carefree, with someone that's so stern and like remembers everything and like doesn't let go of grudges easily. And then Nemo just, trying to find his way in the world. I feel like there is no side plot. Like, they're both really important to this overall story that Pixar is trying to tell, and they successfully did tell. Coming in at number 7 is Toy Story 3. P is for Mr. Pricklepants, and T is for Trixie. A sequel to a film, let alone a third installment to a series, being this high up a list really depicts the whole series' quality and the storytelling. And it just showed how much story building and how much story there was left to tell. And this is a very pivotal moment in the whole Toy Story universe where Woody and the gang really just have to come in terms of, Andy growing up and finding their own footing, and Woody accepting that he can't be with Andy forever, and he's all grown up and he's done an amazing job, but just, to move forward. And all the shenanigans they're in, and then the villain, like, unlike Toy Story 2, I feel like the villain, which I didn't talk about in the Toy Story 2 section, but of course the prospector is the real villain, but I just still thought that was weak and out of nowhere as well. But the villain in this film, although it was semi-predictable a little bit, but like, even if you thought maybe he was a villain, like, who would have predicted that he wouldn't have been all like fragile and frail and just let them out of the fire? But no, they're like, nope, see you, bye, like, I don't care. And that just shows, people, it doesn't matter what you say and what you do. Some people just don't change. Some do, but some don't, and that really shows that. And it's incredible that they really showed kids their favorite characters all potentially going to die in fire. And it was a perfect comic relief because, of course, you can't go that dark in a children's movie without having the perfect comic relief to follow it. And having the aliens go, the claw, like, I was bawling my eyes out of, like, laughter. Like, it was so funny. And the fact that they were able to save Mr. Potato Head, because he was considered their father for so long, it was perfect, which again, you have to watch all the films in a row to really get the gist of the comedy and the themes and the story and the character development throughout all 4 films. Coming in at 6 is Ratatouille. R is for Remy and C is for Colette. Ratatouille, I feel like, is a film a lot of people like, but they don't talk about. And the story is one of the most unique stories there are in Pixar. And on paper, it looks bizarre. Like, having a rat that just kind of steers away from the norms of just like liking garbage and really loving food and loving to cook, and then going to Paris somehow and finding his way in a kitchen and controlling this guy that doesn't know what he's doing. Like, wow, like, that sounds not like a great movie, but it was. It really has you these ups and downs and what these characters are going to do, and the relationship between a guy and a rat and the villain of this movie, like, was fun to see, like, how much he hated the rat, how close he got to the rat. Like, those are moments that we built for kids. But having the critic there and just the overall tone of the film was very mature. Coming in at 5 is Toy Story. B is for Buzz. My favorite Toy Story film is none other than Toy Story 1, the original. And it's the most simple story, like, it just happens next door. but just the themes that they were able to tackle with toys is revolutionary in the animation, let alone children, movie landscape, that they really explored like existential crisis of like Buzz, like, I am a toy, so who am I? And Woody kind of just being the self-absorbed leader that gets this new popular guy coming in Andy's room and can't accept that, and just his reactions, and then those two characters having two opposite problems just tossed in a conflict together and having to escape and bond and learn from each other. Coming in at 4 is Coco. M is for Miguel. My actual M. I was shocked how amazing it was, because I was just used to sequels after sequels after sequels this decade, which were average or good at most. But this film really went away from that and went back to what Pixar does best, and that's telling an original story with a purpose and really getting you in the emotions and thinking about life differently. And its message is one of my favorite messages out of all Pixar films, for sure. And it just shows that, the purpose of life isn't just to live and then you die and that's it. It's to really impact the people around you, connecting with people, and that's the most important thing in life. And it's not what you say to people or what you do, it's how you make them feel. You're not experiencing your second death, as they call it in the film, is because people on Earth are still remembering you. They're still telling your stories and they feel something towards you. So we're heading into my top 3 territory here. Coming in at 3 is Monsters, Inc. Y is for Yeti. Hold on, I gotta switch this real quick. My Monsters, Inc. PJs going on over here. So Monsters, Inc. was one of the first Pixar films, and it didn't rely heavily on this huge, mature, emotional ride to drive the story, which I love that, which you've, seen through this video. But it really had such comedy gold. Like, I'm laughing the whole time. But then also the story of a monster that's super scary, the scariest one. He screams at children, but then he, even him, connects with this little child. It's just this innocence to this movie that it's not just nostalgia. Like, I rewatched it and I felt it still. Like, their connection is very heartwarming. At the end of the day, that's the root of this film. And then it has all the comedic undertones to it that really pushes why it's so high on my list. Coming in at 2 is Inside Out. J is for Joy. Inside Out, I have a personal connection to because I was actually moving that summer it came out. My personal connection to this movie aside, it is incredible how they were able to depict all these emotions and just all these concepts like long-term memory. Even Bing Bong, that is pretty much the comic relief of this film, serves a greater purpose. He is let go, and I thought it was very smart that they didn't show Riley like, oh no, like, I can have imaginary friends, what are you talking about? And then the parents would get her to forget about it and then focus on something else. This is a lot more realistic. These things kind of just go out of your minds. One day something that's super important to you kind of gradually gets less, and then eventually it slips your mind, and this just shows that. And Bing Bong accepting he's going to be forgotten, that's one of many emotional beats to this movie. And then the ending was just I feel like I'm the most emotional at that ending than any other Pixar moment. The whole message of you need sadness to have joy and to have all these emotions. It doesn't have to be necessarily a purely good emotion or a purely bad. It's a mix, and you're allowed to feel both. And emotions are complicated, and it kind of, in a children's movie, you'd think they'd really simplify the emotions, there's 5 and that's it, and they're distinct and they don't overlap, but it's the opposite. And I think this movie is so useful for children and for anyone to just really understand themselves, and that they're able to feel whatever they want to feel. Now, we got my number 1 movie, and before I say that, I want to know in the comments what your top 5 Pixar films are, and if you agree or heavily disagree with me anywhere. Coming in at number 1 is WALL-E. W is for Wally, and E is for Eve. You'd think a movie with 2 distinct parts, like one was in Earth and then one was in space, you would like one more than the other. It's a switch up, but it flows seamlessly, and it is such a stunning world. Even though the beginning, he's literally walking in trash and not talking, I think it's astonishing how you can make a good 40 minutes of the film with barely any dialogue, just little robot sounds. And even the beginning, there wasn't even Eve. Like, he just has this cockroach, and you could see his personality like right away. He's so sweet, he's so caring of everything, and he's really into collecting like me. No, but honestly, this movie just really takes two robots and shows that they are more human than the humans are in the film, which is a really interesting message, which is very subtly put in there. Like, the environment, of course, is like the main in-your-face message, but it's so much more than that. Just like learning to connect to the people around you, making relationships. Humans are so disconnected in their world, and then they rely on technology for everything, and Captain saying, I don't want to survive, I don't want to live. Like, that's so important. Like, you don't want to just live your day passively and just doing the same routine again and again and again. You want to feel alive. You want to make these connections. That's what makes you feel alive. And that's the thing with Pixar, is they really, each film has a distinct message, and they really get you to think and reevaluate what you prioritize in your life and how you feel and how you see the world. And that is why WALL-E is my favorite film. So that's it for my rankings. I cannot wait to the newest Pixar film next year. Please subscribe for more if you like this video. And in the meantime, you could check out my other pin related content. Thanks for watching and have a magical day. Bye.